Well, it's been an intense 2 days of discussions and disagreements at the National Dialogue on Coalition Governments. Political parties have been reacting to proposals tabled by the ANC. There was a general consensus on the ANC's proposal that the party with the most votes in a coalition should lead a municipality or government. Smaller parties also objected to putting a limit on the number of times a motion of no confidence can be tabled against a mayor of a council or metro. Let's unpack this discussion now with Dr. Sam Koma, a governance expert. Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Koma, for joining me this evening. Of course, coalitions, I think earlier this week, or in January, we know that it is a mess in South Africa. As you know, we can't look past that fact. But looking at this that happened this weekend, and Paul Mashatile also being there in attendance and obviously delivering his speech, what's been your key takeaway here?
Oh yeah, thanks, Brendan, for the opportunity. So firstly, I think we need to applaud all the political leaders for agreeing to convene this gathering with the purpose to ensure that they reach some consensus on a number of issues pertaining to coalition arrangements in the context of local government. There is empirical evidence and also observation made that coalition arrangements, as currently structured in the context of local government, have had a negative effect on the proper functioning of municipal councils plus municipal administrations. But these political parties, they are also acknowledging that coalition governments is now a reality in municipalities, because at the moment we have about 66 hung municipal councils, which means that they are now governed by some form of coalition arrangements among the different parties that are constituting the various municipal councils. So that is the positive sign, to say there is agreement among these political parties to say it's high time they craft a framework that will govern these coalition arrangements. And what is emerging from this national dialogue so far is that there is consensus on a number of issues. One, in terms of ensuring that they make these coalition agreements public as part of holding these political parties accountable around the issues that are encapsulated in the agreements that they enter into. And two, they're also agreeing that they need to set up an independent body that will manage the coalitions, more like a tribunal, which is also obtaining in countries like Kenya. They also have a similar arrangement. It's a body that is there to intervene in the event there are disagreements and also there are issues that needs to be mediated among the different political parties. So there's an agreement on that. The third emerging issue is that all the parties are agreeing that there's a need to professionalize local government by ensuring that they insulate political leadership from making senior appointments at the level of the municipal manager or city managers and the managers that are directly accountable to the city manager. So broadly, there is emerging consensus among the different political parties as to what needs to be done going forward.
But of course, there are a lot of smaller parties that, are against this. They say that, this is just the bigger parties trying to play big here and trying to stay in control when it comes to coalitions come 2024. Some of the issues that they've mentioned is also that, to object, putting limits on motions of no confidence against the mayor of a council or metro. But yeah, what's your take on that? The smaller parties not wanting to come on board with this?
Yeah, thanks for that, Brendan. So where I agree with them is on the issue of putting limits to motions of no confidence. Because remember, that one is a constitutional matter, and the Constitutional Court has on numerous occasions ruled that that is the terrain for a municipal council to govern its own affairs. As the judiciary, they cannot prescribe, they cannot also dictate how a municipal council proceeds to govern its own internal arrangements. So it's incumbent upon the political parties constituting a municipal council to agree not to be dictated upon by the national government on how they go about regulating their internal business. So on that one, I agree with them. But remember, at the moment, how the coalition arrangements are structured is that the biggest beneficiaries are the so-called smaller parties, because the so-called big parties are the ones who are now going to the smaller parties to strike some deal or deals with them as part of power sharing, especially around the allocation of positions. We have seen in the city of Joburg, the current mayor is from a party that is not a majority party in terms of seats that are allocated to the political parties in the city of Joburg. The same in the city of Tshwane. The speaker is from a smaller party. Nelson Mandela Bay, the same is obtaining. The parties that are in charge are parties that are not drawn from the larger parties as they are classified.
And yeah, I think maybe, from your expert opinion, when it comes to 2024 next year, do you think that coalitions could work in this country, generally speaking?
Yes, we had an experiment of a government of national unity in 1994 as part of the transition of our democracy. Of course, there are lessons that can be drawn from that. It was not a perfect setup because we know that later 2 or 3 parties, especially the IFP, withdrew from that government of national unity. So at the national level, you remember at the moment, the ANC, as part of the governing party at the national level, they've already co-opted the leader of the Good Party, that is Patricia de Lille. They have a working relationship with the Good Party at the national level. So for the ANC, come 2024, in the event the electoral outcome delivers a hung government, they will be able to strike some agreement, some arrangement with other parties, including the Good Party.
And then, of course, we heard from Deputy Minister of Cooperative Governance, Park Style. He also said at the gathering that legislation on coalitions had already been drafted, and there was a lot of anger towards that from the smaller parties, especially. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think it was poor judgment on the part of the Deputy Minister to use that platform to already indicate that, no, guys, we already have a package which we have struck or we have worked on behind the scenes. We are just here to rubber stamp that package. Beyond this gathering, as the national government will be initiating a legislation to look into the governance of coalition governments in the context of municipalities. That was quite unfortunate. What happened, especially coming from the Deputy Minister.
All right. Thank you so much for your time this evening, Dr. Koma. It's always a pleasure talking to you regarding, these topics. So thank you so much for your time this evening.